All right, so obviously this is a AR-15. I just want to talk about how to hold it, how to shoot it, basically everything with grip, and just what's going to set you up for success. A lot of the times when you see someone who maybe hasn't shot an AR platform very much, what you usually get is you get this bladed stance like this over here, maybe where they're kind of like this. If I were to turn, something like this. You don't want to do that, obviously, for a couple of reasons. Number one, standing bladed like this, it's really narrowed down my shoulder right here. I don't have hardly anything to press firmly onto the stock. If you see, it's just kind of hardly on there by the side. So it's not as good for support. And also, if you're getting shot at and you have body armor on, my protection is facing here. Whereas, if I'm trying to shoot this way, the threat's going to be shooting at me this way, and it's going to leave all this exposed. Okay, so gone are those days of doing that. What I've always liked to do is, if I stand about right here and I were to draw a line right in the grass, on that line I place my left foot, or whatever foot for you is going to be your front foot. I place roughly my heel on that line. My right foot, I'm kind of placing my toes on that line, and I just have this shoulder width, maybe slightly wider than shoulder width stance. That's dependent on your body type, right? If you have wider hips, you might want to go a little wider. If you have more narrow hips, you might want to go a little more narrow. That part's not as important. It's just kind of what works for you. There's not a one size fits all. But the most important thing is that when you're in this stance, right, you want to be a little more upright. You might have a slight bend, might have a slight, weight slightly forward on this front foot. Just remember, my knees right now are my suspension. So I have this slight bend, I'm upright, I have my body armor, if I'm wearing it, facing my targets, and I'm a little more squared up to it. And I'll show you from this angle, if I were to square up to this target and do it my stance the right way, here's what I'm doing, like this, right? I'm bringing my shoulder up and kind of squared up with the rifle. So as you saw earlier, the buttstock was hardly on my shoulder. If I come up here now like this, it's in my shoulder really, really well. Okay, so that's just going to give me some support when I actually go to shoot that. It's also squaring me up, like I said, getting me in with my target here. So make sure that this shoulder here, again, getting that good stance. Make sure this shoulder, you're not bringing it back because there's no support. You're bringing it kind of up like this, up and forward, squared up, okay? So with your right arm, with that right shoulder, it's how it's gonna look. Another pointer with that right arm, don't have this elbow flared like this. You're making yourself a bigger target, and if I were to hold this feels heavy already, okay? Because I'm just loose, everything's out. I'm feeling all this tension on my delt, on my trap. What I wanna do is, I wanna bring that elbow in. I feel like I could hold this all day. Everything's in tight and compact. I'm relying on my bone structure more so than my muscles to hold the gun. And shooting is basically what it is bone structure, relaxation, keeping everything as natural as possible. All right, so with that right arm, again, bring that shoulder forward and up, keep that elbow in, okay? That hand, you want a little bit higher of a grip. Obviously, this kind of sucks. Feels heavy, feels like it's, the weight's carrying it forward. If I have this higher grip, this feels good. And again, I'm trying to go for the straighter posture here, right? Everything in line, not like this, not like this, okay? Your buttstock can have a lot to do with that. If I collapse this buttstock, look what happens to my wrist. It's got this weird bend. And now, my forearm, I'm feeling it. I'm putting that rifle in an awkward position that my body's not like used to, you know what I mean? So this sucks. Don't be afraid to extend that buttstock like this and keep everything a lot more in line. This feels much better. What I was always told, what I've always done is take your rifle, hold it by the pistol grip, and put it in the crease of your arm. It should be about close to a 90-degree angle like this, okay? What I mean by that is, if my stock is collapsed and there's all this space right here, it's awkward. So extend it, whatever makes just about a 90-degree angle, run with that. Okay, so that's kind of your right hand, or your firing side hand. If you're a lefty, it would obviously just be the opposite. Now the most important part, in my opinion, is what you're doing with this support hand. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a cool little trick. If I were to get my pistol out, right? Picture this pistol. Watch what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna show you the difference from pistol to rifle. Same thing, elbow is in tight, my shoulder kind of relaxed, but it's not like drooping down. I'm not bladed sideways, anything like that. And when I go to draw, all I'm doing is coming out. I have this high firm grip, just like I said with the rifle. And my hand's here. Only difference is with the rifle, it's like this. Same grip though, same exact grip. Okay, from here, that's all it is, right? Just like this. Okay, so the pistol and the rifle do translate well. That's always like a good pointer or whatnot. But let's get into the support hand, which, like I said, I believe is the most important part. Typically speaking, I run a BCM gunfighter grip. It's this pretty ergonomical, like angled grip. It's not the typical broomstick that comes down and straight. It's, you know, what everyone kind of started on. I don't have that grip on here, obviously. But if I did, I like it for two reasons, okay? Is one, it's like a reference point or like a guideline. I can always reach out on my rifle and I can feel where it's at. I keep it about here on my other rifles, and all I'm doing is I'm using that to really kind of hold on to and keep me steady. My support hand does almost all the work. If I wanted to shoot right now, I could just stick my finger in like this and just start pulling the trigger. This isn't as important, right? Obviously, like we said, you don't want to be here. You don't want your shoulder down and back, like droopy and bladed and everything. But like if I get in a good stance, I should be able to just start pulling the trigger and have pretty accurate shots with just my support hand. Because like I said, that's probably the more important part. So I do the C-clamp here. I'm not over exaggerated like it used to be where you're, you know, like this. I'm fatiguing right here already. It's not natural. It's pretty awkward looking too. If you go to the range, you might get made fun of. So I wouldn't recommend doing this type of grip. And I also wouldn't recommend, if you have that broomstick or whatever, holding it at the bottom like this. This is what I see more than anything. I see everyone holding the broomstick just at the bottom with no support on the top of the rail and no support on the left side of the rail. Obviously, what would happen, and I'll show you, is if I'm holding onto this broomstick, right? Or I have this very low grip and I go to shoot, I'll go for the top left target. If I go to shoot with this low grip, let's see what happens to this rifle recoil. I'll do it one more time. Has a pretty good rise to it, right? Like it goes up, okay? So when I shoot this rifle, it's gonna wanna go to the path of least resistance. That's how recoil works with any weapon system. So if I'm up here like this, getting ready to shoot, and I pull the trigger, and I have this low broomstick grip, what you saw is it has this muzzle rise like this, okay? Just like this. Obviously that's not good. Shooting, you wanna shoot flat, straight back and forth. Okay, you want your optic or your, you know, backup sights, whatever it is, you want that to return to your first point of aim as quick as possible, so you can just keep getting steady shots. You want that rifle to recoil not here with this weird grip, right? Not here, but like this, straight back and forth, okay? So again, probably don't do the over-exaggerated C-clamp. Probably don't just hold your grip from the bottom with no support. What I always like to do, and everyone's different, is I do like a C-clamp without all that over-exaggeration. And this is probably the most common grip right now. So all I'm doing is I'm using my palm here to, just like a pistol, kind of apply a little bit of pressure on the side. All I'm doing is I'm wrapping my thumb over, right? Which is kind of why I have my pressure pad here anyways, because it's, you know, right there and ready to go. But I wrap my thumb over, and that prevents that huge muzzle flip, right? It prevents the rifle from doing this. So when I go to shoot now, it should come more straight back and forth. Okay, so let's see. All right, so that's how I like to hold it with my support hand. Again, just like this. And I do that C-clamp. Now the question is, well, how far out, right? Because you see some guys who are a little goofy and they might reach, now this is a short rifle, but it might reach straight out like this. Problem with this is, again, I'm fatiguing. I can feel my muscles, my delts, like not liking this position because they're locked out. It's a little awkward, and it's also just like, what's the point of holding it with a straight arm? It just doesn't really make sense. But I'll tell you what's even worse than that is this. This is kind of getting phased out now, but this, you know, this was the way back in the day, holding that mag well, right? Like I got this, but here's why I don't like it. This is like a big hinge point here, right? Like all this room to wiggle and pivot because I'm at the mag well. Now listen, this is the most important part. I always tell people, when you write with something, whether it's a pen, a pencil, a marker, it doesn't matter. Are you holding it back here where you have all this room to move and wiggle? Or are you getting closer to the front where like there's nothing, right? Like I control this. Don't overthink it. This is the same. I have all this room to hinge and pivot and it's just awkward. But if I get right about here, just like a pen or a pencil, I'm able to control it a lot better, okay? Like this feels good to me. So again, square up to your target, right? If you're drawing that line in the ground, put that front leg on that line, put that right leg on that line, shoulder width-ish, depending on how wide your hips are, whatever feels comfortable. And when you go to get the rifle up, again, don't blade like this. Keep that shoulder firm, rolled forward, so you're pressing it into the entire buttstock and not just the side where it's weak. And if you have to, just raise that shoulder up, okay? Just like this. All right, so just like that. My left hand out at a comfortable position, not too far, obviously not too close. C-clamp to manage recoil, just like this. Now the last couple of pointers, this is always one of the most common errors, okay? Everyone brings, if you're untrained or maybe you're just getting into it, which is fine, a lot of people bring their eyes and their head down to the optic, but they should be doing the reverse. You should be bringing your optic up to you, right? It should be minimal or no head movement when I go to shoot, just like this, okay? That's why now you're seeing a big increase in these risers. I know GBRS Group has the Hydra, raises it up to the moon, which is cool, you know? So if you have that riser, it's gonna move it up. And the goal is, if this dot was down on the rail, I would have to really bring my head down like this. But the problem with this is, I've already said, you want to keep your body as natural as possible, right? Just follow your anatomy. What's more natural? The way I should do it, which is bringing this rifle up to me, like this, or should I bring my head all out of whack like this? This just sucks. It's like not comfortable, it's not natural, all that stuff. So bring your optic up to your eyes. Don't bring your eyes down to the optic. If you're gonna get a riser, that's great. It's gonna help with that, especially if you're trying to clear gear. If you have kit on, it'll help get over there because everyone knows having kit just makes things really awkward. On top of all this that we've talked about, just make sure to, if you have that riser, you're gonna have a little bit of an offset, obviously. So you can tell my impacts. I had my dot right here. My impacts were all right here, okay? So this is about 2.88 inches from the optic down to the bore. That's gonna be about my offset from this close, okay? So just consider that. When I had a Neotech, I used, you know, it has the circle with the dot, use the bottom of the circle for like that close range, use the dot for wherever you've zeroed. You know, just make sure, obviously it's gonna change when you put a riser on it, but risers are good things because like I said, it brings your optic up to your eyes rather than the other way. Last thing I'll say, hips. So in that stance, right, if this is my stance, I wanna make sure my hips are facing my target because hips don't lie. That's wherever my hips are, that's where my body's gonna be, and where my body's gonna be is where my rifle's gonna send rounds, okay? So I'm here like this. This is really nice, all right? I've got my hips and my feet facing the target. My back leg, it's okay to have it out a little bit, but watch what happens if I go to open up my back leg. Watch what happens with my hips. If I relax, my body is wanting to go in the middle of that and aim over here. So now in order to shoot back, I'm having to fight my anatomy and twist and get all this tension in here just to make rounds impact over here, rather than getting myself squared up to my target like this with my hips, right? Same thing, if I open up my front leg, my body naturally wants to come like this. So just make sure your body's aligned to everything, all right? So stance, alignment, firing hand, support hand, bring the gun up to you, don't bring you down to the gun, check out a riser. It will help with that.